A few days after I turned 18 years old, I gathered my identification and papers and registered to vote. I did not consider the process an undue burden because I am white. The first election after I turned 18, I was away at college, so I requested an absentee ballot. I did not consider the process an undue burden because I am white. After I graduated and moved into my home, filed a change of address, and the first time I voted, I went to my polling place and voted. I didn't consider the process an undue burden because I'm white. When an election judge asked me to produce identification, I produced identification. I did not consider that to be an undue burden because I'm white. If you are a member of the thought police, you are now exhibiting righteous indignation. What does being white have to do with it? And that would be a legitimate question. However, if you are a liberal or a member of the thought police, you would also say that every one of these things creates an undue burden on Black people voting. These are Jim Crow laws. If these are not an undue burden on me, why do they consider to be an undue burden on Black people? There are many things which require identification. If you are to go into a federal building, you are expected to produce identification. Oh, the government wants Black people to stay out of federal buildings. No. If you are to purchase a firearm, you are expected to produce identification. Oh, identification to purchase a firearm is meant to help keep guns out of the hands of Black people. You don't hear that argument. Been on an airplane lately? Produce identification? Ever seen Black people on an airplane? Well, it doesn't keep Black people on airplanes. If you are to start a new job, you are expected to produce identification verifying your right to work in the United States. Maybe that's why there's such a problem with Black unemployment, because they need to produce identification. Those are foolish arguments. The real reason why liberals and thought police pose things like registering to vote, identification, is they want to make it easier to cheat on elections. The Democrats had a hissy fit when Texas passed voter identification laws, voter integrity laws. You know, part of the voter integrity laws include the right to poll watching. Well, Democrat leading precincts and voting areas, you don't want the scrutiny of poll watchers. That's election integrity. We don't want that. Democrats don't want election integrity. That's why they oppose election integrity laws. In Colorado, one of the county clerks had her home raided, was arrested by the FBI because she wanted to conduct an audit of the voting in her county. But the Colorado Secretary of State, person responsible for elections statewide, didn't want that. They took away her duty and responsibility to oversee elections in her county because she wanted election integrity. The Democrat Colorado Secretary of State did not want that. I personally do not think requiring identification discriminates against Black people. I don't think that Black people, as a rule, are too stupid or too poor to acquire identification so they could vote. Well, that's what the liberals think. That's what the Democrats think. That's what the thoughtfuls think. If you think Blacks are too stupid or too poor to get identification to vote in an election, you should be ashamed of yourself. I don't think that. Republicans don't think that. The liberals probably don't think that either. They're just making a ridiculous argument. Not having identification makes it easier to cheat. And that's why liberals oppose election integrity laws.